In the East Midlands, 300,000 new jobs and a way forward for a post-Brexit economy. The Midlands Engine steps up a gear. Business says it's up to the challenge. But are our politicians?
We need to get our game together so that when they've got theirs sorted out, we're ready for action and we can be talking to central government with a unified voice.
And health services under threat. Plans to close smaller hospitals and end specialist heart surgery in the region.
If they try to close New Home, I will actually stand in front of the building or lie down and have an action group to make sure that it stays open.
You bet your sweet life we'll be campaigning. Like that lady said, she'd lay down in front of you. Watch.
Hello, I'm Mary Ashby, and joining me to pick our way through another eventful week in politics are the Conservative MP for North West Leicestershire, Andrew Bridgen, and Graham Allen, Labour's MP for Nottingham North. Welcome to you both. And let's start by getting your reaction, both of you, to this weekend's events. Andrew Bridgen, you declared your support for Andrea Leadsom in the Tory leadership race. In fact, you did that loud and clear during the week. Here you are marching with other MPs in her support. South Derbyshire's Heather Wheeler is there in the midst of all of that too. There she is in her blue jacket. So are you still standing by Andrea Leadsom in the Tory leadership race, despite her comments on being a mother and Theresa May not having any children?
Of course I am, and I think the way that the media have taken all that Andrea said about that issue, and she was very clear that this is not an issue she wanted in the article, and I think she was pretty much trapped by that very cunning journalist who...
But we've seen the transcript of that interview.
And you've heard it, and you should have heard that she said that this is not for inclusion in the article. This is not important. I don't want the campaign to be about that.
Well, it has become about that. Was she naive, though, Andrew? Was she naive?
Well, no. Look. Andrea is clearly, the underdog. We had to get her across the line into the final two. That was in doubt. Theresa May already had 100 pledges before Andrea was even running for the leadership. Theresa's got her civil servants spinning for her. She's got a whole apparatus around her, and Andrea has been slow to get that organised. But we've got a 9-week campaign now, and she shouldn't be punished because she hasn't got the PR people around her that Theresa May has.
Well, no, but she was interviewed, you say, by a cunning journalist. She was interviewed by a journalist who wanted to know her views on family.
And when she was giving her views on and saying, these are my children, the journalist was in the background. You can hear her cooing and encouraging her to come on. She was slightly naive. She should have had her own recording of it. She should have had her own PR people there.
But do we want a naive Prime Minister who can get themselves into a situation which has now become the big talk?
Well, she'll have a lot more support around her going forward. I think now is the time to send for Linton Crosby.
You say she's going to have more support around her, but Broxtowe MP Anna Soubry is quoted as saying, do us all a favour, Andrea Leadsom, step down. It's actually being suggested in the Sunday Times today that some of your East Midlands Conservative colleagues are actually considering leaving the party. Leaving the party.
Well, let's have the names. But I mean, if Theresa May ends up leading the party, I think you'll have as many people fall off the other side of the party. I think you've got to deliver Brexit and have an optimistic view of the future. You've got to have a Prime Minister who supported the Leave campaign. What have you got with Theresa May? You've got someone who, on the big issue facing her department, controlling migration, decided to back Remain, not to take the powers back to sort out migration. And the best that Theresa May's campaign can say is that during the campaign where she lost, she was on the Remain side, she actually never got on the pitch to play, she was on the subs bench. That's not the sort of leadership I'm looking for.
OK, well, let's turn to Graham Allen now. Angela Eagle, as we've seen this morning, says she is going to challenge Jeremy Corbyn. You've been calling for calm in the party. How do you feel about your party tearing itself apart like this, Graham?
May I just say, in terms of Andrea Leadsom, very briefly, and I'm leaving Andrew to his grief, as no doubt he will leave Labour to ours, which is coming up shortly. But Andrea Leadsom is one of the foremost exponents of early intervention, helping kids to grow effectively, and I think that needs to be on the record.
So you're a fan, basically?
Well, I think Andrea would bring something to the Conservative Party and to the leadership.
OK,
that's not
well, let's talk about your party.
So let's talk
some
about
of the papers,
my problem,
yes, please.
Which is the Labour
some
Party.
of the papers today saying that it's the start of an all-out civil war. It couldn't be any worse, could it?
I think we've all got to have a bit of a deep breath. You know, we've had...
There isn't time for a deep breath, is there?
Yes, there is, yeah. We've had exit from Europe, we've had the Prime Minister resigning, we've got Labour's problems, and possibly worst of all, we've had England going out of the European football finals. But seriously, I think we are into a period of quite hysterical activity around politics. And
historical as well, probably.
The media frenzy. You can't move in the House of Commons without being interviewed 6 times before you get to the loo.
Well, OK,
so
can Angela Eagle bring your party
here.
together? She says she's the person to do that.
I think what we do is we take it step by step. So Angela hasn't even officially declared yet.
Tomorrow's the day.
It may be
Tomorrow's
tomorrow.
the day.
It
She
sounds
says
like
it is.
it's
She
tomorrow.
said this morning
there
it's
may
tomorrow.
be other candidates, and there's also a process. The
OK.
Conservatives are going through theirs. We will go through ours, and we should take it step by step.
Would you support Angela?
Rather than trying to predict the future.
Would you support Angela?
Depends who's in the race. The Labour Party has a parliamentary party. It has a lot of members, and those two are at loggerheads. We need to resolve it carefully.
Well, the stakes are obviously high in politics with so many changes at the moment. And what will it all mean for our economy? This week, the Midlands Engine roared into life, or spluttered, depending on your point of view, with a promise of 300,000 new jobs and billions invested in our economy. Our political editor, Tony Roe, has been looking at whether it'll succeed.
Norton motorcycles, a history and a future at the heart of what's been branded the Midlands Engine. New manufacturing, new employment. It's about time, they say, that the Midlands pulls together to get much needed investment.
We're getting a little bit of political capital and a bit of strength about the team and the voice that we're starting to have. And that now needs to be built upon.
That imbalance in investment was raised by the Labour leader at Prime Minister's questions.
Will he now confirm that the Chancellor's fiscal rule is dead and invest in the North East, in Lincolnshire, in Derbyshire, all those places that feel, with good reason, that they've been left behind? And
Shirebrook in Derbyshire was one of the places Mr Corbyn singled out. No new manufacturing here to replace the coal mine. The Sports Direct warehouse brings in labour, leaving few choices for the young here.
We need more companies coming here to invest into Shirebrook, which is a good time, but at the moment they're not.
We'd like some investment into the village for the young.
I mean, when people have got qualifications, I want to use them qualifications, but there's nothing there for them.
At a summit of the Midlands Engine this week were politicians, business leaders and academics who will propel that engine.
Good morning to you all.
The aim is to boost our economy here, get the investment.
We have a major role to play in our country's economic future.
And in the wake of the EU vote, the Business Minister and Broxtowe MP Anna Soubry says they should not forget young people who feel left behind, who need the skills to work.
There are too many youngsters who feel that they are disenfranchised, disconnected, nobody cares about them, utterly disillusioned. Invariably, they don't get the skills that they should get, and they don't believe they have a future, and they have no hope for a future. We've got to stop that.
That's what's happening at Norton. They have their own apprenticeship scheme, where practical skills and enthusiasm are perhaps rated higher than other qualifications.
We employ here on ability. You know, if anybody shows that ability, it's nothing to do with a piece of paper.
I've been into bikes all my life since I was a kid, and this is like the dream kind of thing.
I'm learning a lot, and I love working down here. It's a great job.
If there was one word used more than any other at this week's Midlands Engine Summit, it was confidence, taking heart from our industrial heritage and innovation.
If we can rekindle that spirit of enterprise, of innovation, the ability to get things done, I think that's very good for the Midlands, but I also think it's very good for Britain.
We're the people that the politicians are going to focus on, and we need to get our game together so that when they've got theirs sorted out, we're ready for action and we can be talking to central government with a unified voice.
And Norton are driving forward with confidence, building a new factory at its Castle Donington base.
So we're on the bottom yoke then, hey?
Yep. Taking on new apprentices in September, by which time the wait for a new political leadership will have been settled.
So, Andrew Bridgen, does the Midlands Engine really mean anything, or is it just an underpowered version of the Northern powerhouse?
No. North West Leicestershire, we sit at the centre of the three cities, the Golden Triangle. We're the heart of the Midlands Engine, and interesting that Stuart Garner and Norton are in my constituency. In North West Leicestershire, we've got we've got more jobs being created at Amazon this summer than we've got people unemployed.
It's not, with all respect, it's not just about North West Leicestershire, it's the Midlands Engine. So look at the places that in that film said they felt like they were being left behind, like Shirebrook.
Okay.
So, you know,
But
yes, it sounds good where you are, and Norton obviously.
But it's going to be good for the whole region. We're going to power forward in North West Leicestershire. We've only got 500 people unemployed. Amazon are creating 500 jobs this summer. I had a meeting yesterday with Wroxhill, the East Midlands Gateway Terminal, 7,000 jobs over the next 3 years, probably 700 in construction. Those jobs will have to be filled by people from Derby, Nottingham and Leicester, and now we need to be talking with those city councils about how we improve communication links to get those people into those 7,000 jobs.
What he's talking about clearly are some positive signs. We heard from Norton Motorbikes there. It's just the kind of factory kind of business that the Midlands Engine should be bigging up.
Well, getting the structure right is very, very important, and I may surprise you and congratulate Conservative government and especially Greg Clark for what he's driven through in terms of devolving power down to our region. That's excellent. I want my party to at least match that and go beyond it. And one of the ways you go beyond it is to hand power back to local government and indeed beyond local government to neighbourhoods and communities. If we do that, we're going to liberate all that talent that is there so that constituencies like mine, arguably the poorest one, lowest income in Nottingham North, we are being left behind. We feel marginalised even sometimes from our own city, and people are not getting those opportunities. So I think handing power down through the Midlands Engine, also through our local enterprise partnerships to local government and to neighbourhoods, is the key to getting our young people the skills and the jobs they need.
Stuart Garner was saying that, all well and good, but we really need to get our acts together now to make this happen.
Well, the East Midlands does retain a bigger proportion of our regional GDP in manufacturing than any other region of the UK, and one of the benefits of a weaker pound is going to help our exports, and we've got great potential to export our engineering expertise, our products around the world.
But of course, what's happened recently in living memory, even though it was 10 days ago, is that we have left the European Union, and lots of those grants that have come to my constituency that have helped young people, helped develop skills, helped new enterprises to start, will now be at risk, and there's a lot of confusion.
Are they not at risk?
Of course they're not. I don't want to refight.
They're not at risk.
They're not at risk because I don't want to refight the referendum campaign. But all we're actually doing
I don't think we've got time for it.
Absolutely. All we're doing is actually getting half of our own money back.
So the referendum campaign.
Yes. Well, you lost last time. I think we're going to. All we're doing is getting half of our own money back. So of course, once we're out of the European Union, we retain the £350 million.
Not in areas like mine, Andrew. In areas like mine, we benefit massively over and above the average in the UK, because the European Union recognises that there are particular areas that really need extra money and regeneration.
At this Midlands Engine conference earlier this week, Sir John Peace, the chairman, said HS2 was vital. You'd have it scrapped.
I would, because it has no business case. I wouldn't say I wouldn't spend the money,
but
I would.
You support the Midlands Engine, but you don't go along with the HS2 view that they have, which is vital to our economy here in the East Midlands.
Well, I don't, because the fact is it has no business case. If HS2 had a business case, you wouldn't need 100 billion of taxpayers' money. All we'd need as a government is to offer the planning permission, and the City of London would raise the money. The fact is the City of London won't touch that project with a barge pole because it's not viable.
The problem here is buy one, get one free. You buy exit from Europe, and you also get an austerity-oriented right-wing government, and they're going to reduce. They don't invest in our country. They've been reducing investment in places like mine, and so you're getting an ideology as well as an exit from Europe. Those two things could be a fatal combination for young people trying to get jobs in my constituency.
Well, all we need to do is increase the communication links from Graham's constituency to mine, and they're going to have to take
But without HS2, how would you do it?
How's HS2 going to help someone get from Nottingham North
to... Well, tell us how you would improve the links then.
Well, I'm looking now with Wroxhill to see if at the same time as bringing the rail link into the gateway just north of the airport, we can bring a passenger line, a link up with East Midlands Parkway, and therefore then anyone who hasn't got a job in Derby, Nottingham or Leicester can get to Parkway and then get the little train into the airport. And at the same time, then we could link up to the airport and give fantastic opportunities.
Communication links are vital, aren't they?
Indeed they are, and we've got many bypasses past my constituency. What we need to do is have arteries into my constituency so that we can encourage small businesses, develop units where young people who are getting skills can then train and get the man or woman with the white van, build up that employment base in my constituency. And I'm afraid leaving Europe and having an austerity budget is not the way to do it.
Taking back control.
OK. Well, changes in our economy and changes in our health services too. Smaller hospitals across the region are being closed down with staff sent to work out in the community instead. But there's strong opposition. Here's Helen McCulloch.
Another night, another public meeting. Tonight it's Bakewell.
21C, or joined up care.
And health chiefs are explaining plans which could see 2 community hospitals in Derbyshire close.
And I don't entirely believe everything you tell me.
It isn't going down well.
Oh, you can just pop down to Kalo and have your treatment, or we'll bring people to the house. Well, you can't bring people to the house into 3 or 4 feet of snow.
If they try to close New Home, I will actually stand in front of the building or lie down and have an action group to make sure that it stays open.
The North Derbyshire Clinical Commissioning Group says it will close the New Home Hospital but keep its services, allowing staff to treat people in their homes.
We won't close any of the hospitals until we've got a clear plan to provide all the other services in the communities. It is only the bedded care that is going to change significantly. So no, those services will still be available to people.
The North Derbyshire CCG says it's responding to changing needs, with an increasingly elderly population and a surge in dementia care. The plans also include closing Bolsover Hospital.
Dennis Skinner.
The local MP raised the issue with the Prime Minister on Wednesday.
We need the beds. I'm sure he understands that. When the hospital is closed, it's gone forever.
Travel south to Hinckley and Leicestershire and there are more protests. The West Leicestershire CCG is looking at closing what it says is an outdated Hinckley District Hospital. Built in the 19th century, the bosses here say the building is simply no longer fit for purpose. But it's precisely that long history with the town that has sparked action from the residents, with campaigners saying they're ready to fight any plans for closure.
I've always known the hospital to be here. My mum worked here for many years. It's just a lovely hospital. It's a massive site. It just needs refurbishing.
We are the poor relations to the big hospitals in the city of Leicester.
Health officials say services wouldn't be lost but improved, with many moving to a nearby hospital in the town, and new facilities like bowel cancer screening added. Although operations here involving general anaesthetics could be moved out of Hinckley.
We need more investment and funding in the NHS. We recently had a referendum where we were told that if people voted leave, they're going to get £350 million more for the NHS every week. Well, you know, let's have some of that money up here in the East Midlands. Let's have our share so we can keep hospitals like Hinckley open.
The point was made very well.
Across the East Midlands, health officials are grappling with financial constraints and changing demands for care. And protesters are preparing to challenge them all the way.
You bet your sweet life will be campaigning. Like that lady said, she'd lay down in front of you. Watch.
And with more health authorities looking at improving services in the face of rising demand and tight budgets, there could be more battles ahead.
Well, as we know, cash is tight in the NHS, Andrew Bridgen, and the question you're going to be asked again and again and again is what's going to happen with this £350 million? And we heard Michael Mullaney there saying we want it here in the East Midlands.
Well, of course we do, but first of all, we've got to get out and have Brexit before we can stop paying our subs to the club. And I think, you know, most commentators on the Leave side have suggested would release probably around about £100 million a week, $5 billion extra a year for the NHS. And of course we want it for the East Midlands. And of course, you know, we're now devastated that a battle we thought we'd won with central government about keeping open the Children's Heart surgery unit at Glenfield.
Yeah.
We're going to have to go and fight that again, and there's a meeting with Jeremy Hunt and the Leicestershire MPs on Monday afternoon.
So how much more money are you going to be spending on the NHS in the East Midlands?
Well, that'll be down to whatever the parties are. When we're out of the European Union, the money is there for the British governments to spend on their priorities. Parties will put forward their spending priorities and people will vote for the party that they like the spending priorities of.
We were promised £350 million if we left the European Union, and now Andrew's knocked it down to 100 million.
The farmers have
it was on the side of your bus. NHS gets £350 million.
The farmers have got to have their money.
And that is now clearly a lie. And we've had other people running backwards away from that promise, and of course it was never going to happen anyway. The fact is the NHS is strapped for cash, and what the people who are talking about leaving the European Union have sold to people is taking our country back and taking our money back, and it's actually not true.
Let's just talk about what's happening in Derbyshire and Hinckley, if we can, about these hospitals. They say that they're trying to improve services and modernise or replace outdated buildings in some cases. It's not necessarily about saving money. It's about doing things more efficiently, Graham Allen.
And I think what we need to do is have another really serious review, a 1947 style review of the National Health Service, because at the moment the National Health Service has very strong bureaucracy, and it's not delivering for people.
Is that what the NHS really needs?
I think it absolutely needs, because what we need to do is to bring power back to our region, and we need to bring it back to our local authorities so that we can have some... So the services that people want locally, we're sensitive to that, rather than Jeremy Hunt or whoever it may be deciding with a stroke of a pen that hospitals like these close when clearly people are locally demonstrating a need.
Cottage hospitals embedded in the community, absolutely, very, very emotive. I completely understand. We've had the same issue in Ashby with the cottage hospital there.
This is like a massive gear change now, though, isn't it? It was 2 years ago that the NHS was talking about cottage hospitals as the way forward, and now this is happening.
Well, yes, but this is a solution to the changing health requirements of areas, not set by politicians or about money. It's actually by the clinicians themselves. And I think, while I completely understand that everyone gets very attached to, if you were born at a cottage,
so strongly.
Absolutely, if you were born at a cottage hospital in Ashby, you do love that building. At the end of the day, though, I think we've got to look at the NHS on health outcomes, not bricks and mortar.
Because we've had years of austerity, what is happening is that the services that people were used to having are no longer there.
We are going
but
to have to leave it there.
The structure is there.
It's been another eventful week. Let's catch up now with some of the stories you may have missed. Here's Tony with 60 seconds.
A petition by a Derbyshire man to allow parents to take children out of school in term time without being fined is being debated by MPs tomorrow. Dave Headley took his wife, who's being treated for cancer, and 3 young children for a break and was threatened with a fine.
The Department of Education should be working with parents and not driving a wedge between parents and schools when obviously the greater interest is the child.
3,000 tonnes of waste have been removed from a site at the centre of a fly infestation in Derby, but bad weather has hampered the clear-up and there's still around 1,000 tonnes left. There was a surprise nomination for Tory leader from a Labour MP, Paul Flynn. He wanted to see Ken Clarke on the ballot paper.
So I've got to remind him, well, I've discovered that the dispatch box is a vital support and a wonderful alternative to a Zimmer frame.
Hello there. Like some leaflets?
The Green Party organiser in the East Midlands is bidding to become the party's deputy leader. Kat Burtger is one of 7 candidates.
And that, as you can see, is the Sunday Politics in the East Midlands this week. Thanks to Andrew Bridgen and Graham Allen for being this week's guests. Time now, though, to hand you back to Andrew Neil. Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you.